From a demonic mother, a deathly ocean voyage, to one of Sri Lanka's biggest tragedies, this video covers 3 photos and their dark backstories. Hi, I'm Orikat and welcome to our channel. I deliver cases to you in a dramatisation format, so if that's something you enjoy, make sure to like, comment and subscribe. As always, my aim is to give a voice to the victims and remember them as they were. So with that, let us begin. In the quiet neighbourhood of Fayetteville, North Carolina, November used to just be another month. But since 2009, it's become a time of sombre reflection, marking one of the most heartbreaking cases in the city's history, the story of 5-year-old Shania Davis. Fayetteville is most known for its strong military presence. It's home to Fort Liberty, formerly known as Fort Bragg, which is one of the largest military institutions in the world. There's lots of affordable housing options, an abundance of green space, a diverse food scene, and of course its close access to mountains and beaches. But a darker side of Fayetteville is its high crime rate. It's actually above the national average in the United States, and there are particular areas which need a little bit of extra caution. Now back to a young girl called Shania Davis. She was a bubbly little girl who loved to talk and also play jokes on others. She never took herself too seriously. She was inherently caring, always telling her loved ones that she loved them. She was just the kind of child that made others smile without even trying and had a natural warmth that just drew people to her. Shania in 2009 was like any other kindergartner, full of promise and innocence. She was even learning how to ride her scooter. With her bright eyes and a gentle smile, she had no idea that the person meant to protect her would ultimately betray her in the most evil, unthinkable way. Before the tragedy, there had been warning signs of neglect, but nothing that could have predicted the horror to come. Shania originally lived with her father, Bradley Lockhart, after he had a separation from Shania's mother, and with the help of Bradley's sister Carrie, they raised Shania by themselves. This was until the start of October 2009, when Antoinette Davis, Shania's mother, got in contact with Bradley again. And she was pleading to be let into her daughter's life again, that she wanted to be a good mother. She was ready to be a good mother. And simply enough, Bradley believed her. She was convincing, and she was in fact the mother of his child. Antoinette swore that she was completely over her financial troubles. So Bradley figured she was being sincere and he could give her a chance. Therefore, he agreed to let Shania stay with her mother on and off. This decision didn't sit well with Carrie, however. She had never really got along with Antoinette because she thought she was neglectful. Antoinette never put Shania first, and she didn't think that was going to change just because Antoinette said so. But unfortunately, unless courts intervene, it is extremely hard to keep a mother away from their child. On the 10th of November 2009, what started as a missing persons case would turn into something a lot more sinister. Antoinette Davis reported her daughter missing at 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and immediately, considering the circumstances Antoinette had described, the Cumberland County authorities confirmed they suspected foul play. Because of this, the authorities started trawling all types of security footage and surveillance cameras in the hopes that they could pick up something involving little Shania. And that same day Shania was reported missing, the police actually did find something. They acquired horrific video footage showing a man carrying Shania Davis through Comfort Suites Hotel in Sanford, North Carolina. This was around an hour away from where Shania was said to have been abducted. And even more interestingly, the timestamp of this surveillance footage was an hour before Antoinette had reported her daughter missing. This footage would later be released to the public. Over the next couple of days, the police worked on identifying the man who had been seen carrying Shania, and eventually named him as Mario Andret McNeil. He was an awful individual who already had a history of violent crime. 3 days after Shania's initial disappearance, on the 13th of November, aware the video was circulating and that he was close to being caught, McNeil turned himself in. Through questioning, McNeil soon implicated Shania's own mother, Antoinette, in what had gone on over those 3 days. But despite the information he was willing to give the police, McNeil refused to tell them where Shania was. The next day, on the 14th, Antoinette Davis was arrested, and the grounds of her arrest left the community open-mouthed. Per McNeil's statements, she was charged with human trafficking, more specifically selling her child as a sex slave. 2 days later, on the 16th, and the police still hoped 5-year-old Shania would still be found alive, but their hopes were dwindling. And following a plea from Brandon and Carrie Lockhart, an hour later, Shania would be found dead in Sanford, North Carolina area, under a log. She was found by a dog walker who noted there were also several deer carcasses in the area. Then on the 18th, the autopsy tragically revealed that Shania had been raped and then suffocated to death. And through Antoinette's trial, a truth emerged that was just too horrific to comprehend. Antoinette had sold her own daughter to McNeil to settle a $200 drug debt. In that vile woman's mind, her daughter's life was only worth $200. Within 24 hours of that transaction, Shania's fate was sealed in the most tragic way possible. In interviews, Antoinette revealed that she knew McNeil through her sister Brenda. McNeil had been Brenda's ex-boyfriend. And in one of her most chilling remarks to the detectives, Antoinette said McNeil was only meant to sleep with her daughter. She didn't intend for her to be killed. The justice system moved with decisive force. McNeil's trial was swift, and the jury needed less than 40 minutes to decide he deserved the death penalty. It was later upheld by the North Carolina Supreme Court. Antoinette Davis pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and a litany of other charges. She was sentenced to at least 17 years in prison, so hypothetically she might be out by 2026. But Shania's story didn't end with the courtroom verdicts. Her death sparked crucial reforms in Cumberland County's Department of Social Services, pushing for changes that might prevent similar tragedies. In the end, Shania Davis wasn't just a victim of crime, but a little girl who should have got so much more from the world than what it gave her. This is the last photo of Shania. In it, she is in the possession of McNeil. In the world of extreme adventure, some stories capture our imagination, just not for their audacity, but for their tragic reminder of nature's raw power. And the tale that does this is of Andrew Macaulay, a man whose final journey will become a haunting testament to both human determination and mortality. Born in Goulburn, Australia, on the 7th of August 1968, Andrew wasn't your typical thrill-seeker. He was a family man at heart, a loving husband to his wife Vicky and a devoted father to their 3-year-old son Finley. But beneath Andrew's more ordinary exterior was the soul of an avid adventurer. Often in his childhood, he and his brother would go swimming, tree climbing and even cliff diving. Andrew was already very experienced in mountaineering and sea kayaking, so he had made a name for himself within the adventure community. He specifically found a love for kayaking in the late 1990s, after kayaking with his friends through the Chilean fjords. And because it was in such bad weather, Andrew thought because he did that, he could do anything. But by January 2007, at the age of 38, Andrew set his sights on what would be his most ambitious challenge yet. He wanted to become the first solo kayaker to cross the treacherous Tasman Sea from Australia to New Zealand. It was a journey that had defeated many before him. It was a 1,600-kilometre stretch of some of the world's most unpredictable waters. Though Andrew did have experience in this type of challenge. In 2003, he became the first person to kayak a direct non-stop crossing of the Bass Strait. This was a trip that took 35 hours to complete. And then there was also his other trip across the Gulf of Carpentaria. That took Andrew over a week, and it was through that he got used to sleeping in his kayak. So back to the Tasman Sea journey, and it's worth noting that Andrew had actually attempted this before. In December 2006, he aborted the mission on the first night. The trip was dangerously cold and consequently, Andrew suffered from hypothermia. But this didn't deter Andrew at all. He just thought he had to be better prepared. His insulated, custom-designed vessel carried 3 video cameras to document the journey, as well as a handheld VHF radio for emergency contact. And of course, the world waited to see if he could do it. So on the 11th of January 2007, Andrew tearfully kissed his wife and son goodbye. He then launched his kayak from Fortescue Bay in Tasmania. Within the first few days, Andrew talked into the camera over how excited he was and that it was amazing he could look back on this when he was older. But the novelty soon wore off, and for nearly a month, Andrew battled massive waves, fierce winds, and crushing solitude. A lot of his documented days spent at sea were uncomfortable and anxious. He often wished he was back home, yet he still persevered. On Thursday, the 8th of February, Andrew finally sent a triumphant text to Vicky and Finley. He only had 120 kilometres to go, and had almost completed 90% of the journey by this point. So victory was really in reach, and he told them that he would see them on Sunday at 9 AM. Because of this, Andrew's family and friends had organised a welcome party for him at Milford Sound, New Zealand. They had been planning to paddle out and wait there for Andrew to come in, holding whiskey and ginger beer, yet Andrew never showed up. And unfortunately for Andrew, the Tasman Sea had other plans. At 7 PM on Friday the 9th of February, the New Zealand Coast Guard received a scrambled radio call. The words were garbled, but the distress was clear. They picked up the words help and sinking. It would be the last time anyone heard from Andrew Macaulay. His family were notified straight after. The next day, searchers found his partially flooded kayak bobbing alone in the vast ocean. Just 30 nautical miles short of his destination, Andrew's body was never found. But among the recovered items was a memory card containing a last photo, a selfie Andrew took, which would become a haunting visual just moments before his death. His story prompted important discussions about the fine line between adventures and recklessness, between pushing limits and just accepting them. Andrew was tragically close to the finishing line, but yet in pursuit of his dreams, he left behind a family who loved him, including a young son who would now have to grow up without a father. Later that year, in 2008, the feat he had attempted was eventually achieved by James Castrizian and Justin Jones in a double kayak, proving that Andrew's dream wasn't impossible, but perhaps it had been impossible to do alone. This photo was taken during Andrew's last days at sea. In Sri Lanka, where the art of cooking is deeply woven into its culture, Shantha Mayadun was more than just a chef. She was a household name. Born on the 4th of April 1951, she would grow to become one of the island nation's most beloved TV personalities. She was specifically known for her warm smile and undeniable expertise. She was beloved across the country. With 30 years of experience in the culinary arts, Shantha built an impressive career, really known for making quick and easy meals. And Shantha really worked at what she loved. She had trained in culinary schools in Australia, UK, Singapore, Thailand and India. She was also an advanced diploma holder from the Wilton School of Cake Making and Decorating in Chicago, USA. She loved sharing her knowledge, so she authored 2 cookbooks and conducted cooking classes where she was known to be a trusted guide. But her greatest joy wasn't found in her professional achievements, but her daughter, Nisanga. The two had an inseparable bond, often appearing together at both public events and family gatherings. They were more than mother and daughter, they were best friends. On Easter Sunday, on the 21st of April 2019, Shantha and Nisanga were doing what they loved most, spending time together. Notably, they were enjoying a family breakfast at the upscale Shangri-La Hotel in Colombo. But this gathering captured what will become their final photograph together, posted by Nisanga on Facebook at around 9 AM. The image shows them smiling and surrounded by family, unaware of the horror that was about to unfold. Minutes after the photo, their lives were tragically cut short. With barely any time to comprehend their fates, they became victims of infamous coordinated suicide bombings that would shake the nation to its core. The series of 8 separate bomb attacks on luxury hotels and churches left 290 people dead and another 500 injured. Amongst the deceased was Shantha, 68 years old, and their daughter Nisanga. Their lives ended in a moment of unspeakable violence. The news of their deaths, like many others, sent shockwaves through Sri Lanka's community. A family member's heartbreaking Facebook post simply stated, "No words can describe the pain." The sentiment was echoed across the nation, as people not only mourned the loss of a celebrity chef, but a woman who had become a part of their lives through her books and daily shows. A year later, church bells rang across Sri Lanka to mark the anniversary of the deaths. And this coming together represented the best of Sri Lankan society: warmth, hospitality, and its love of both family and food. In Sri Lankan homes, where her cookbooks still sit on kitchen shelves and their recipes are still followed, Shantha's legacy lives on, not just as a chef, but as a symbol of the joy of bringing people together around a table, even if her own final meal will become a heartbreaking footnote in her country's history. This photo was taken only minutes before the bombing. Thank you for watching. Comment down below what you thought was the darkest photo.